What's up, y'all? We here, and I know y'all looking at the screen. I'm like, who that? Who is that lady? I know. We're so used to seeing certain characters on the screen, but today, not so much. Shout out to my guy Benji Banks, my cousin, my guy. He's a little under the weather today, so he's not gonna be joining us on this episode. So prayers up for him. Patricia will be joining us shortly, but we got a special guest with us. We got a very special guest. And let me tell y'all this before we even get started. I've been knowing this young lady for a long time. Pretty good amount of time.
Yeah.
We even go back as far as I DJ'd her at her wedding. So so yeah, and
Very well.
well, thank you. Well, thank you. And we have a lot of history, so we've had many conversations about her coming on the show. But you all are going to find out why we have her here. It's not just because she's cool with Big Ken; it's because she really has something to talk about. We really have a subject that we need to discuss, and she also has a book. She's an author. She's an author. She wrote an amazing book. I got it right here. Boom! I got it right here, and we're gonna talk about it. But before we even get started, Miss Kia, how are
Yes.
you doing today? How are you feeling? How are you doing mentally, emotionally, physically? How you feeling?
So let me date myself a little bit. I'm blessed and highly favored. I'm feeling good. It was a busy day today, but I'm feeling good. I was anxious and anticipating this opportunity this evening to be able to talk about the book and really talk about something that I'm passionate about, namely my daughter, but also education. And I'm feeling good. I'm feeling good.
Okay, yeah, because Tuesdays is sometime Monday Junior, as we call it.
Well,
It's
for
it
for
can
me, it usually is because my daughter has music club at 7:15, so she has to go to school early, and then right after school she has drill team practice until 7:30 ish. So my husband is taking care of that today. So yeah, it's a long day.
okay,
Tuesday
okay.
is definitely it's Monday senior.
All right. Speaking of your husband, y'all, husband is a good friend of mine as well. Some of you have that follow me on social media. You've seen my pictures from my birthday party a couple weeks ago. He's actually on there, and a lot of people they think we're related. They think we're they think that's been a new thing lately that we're cousins or related somehow because we're almost the same height. We
Yep.
got the gray beard, the salt and pepper beards. Like it's just a lot of
Bald
similarities there.
head.
Bald head, you know what I'm saying? So it's just a lot of similarities there. So
Yeah.
it's very funny. But again, like I said, I'm very thankful that you were able to join us on today. The audience, y'all, if y'all have any questions in the chat as usual, y'all put the questions in the chat just to, so we can ask the questions because I'm telling you, what we're gonna be talking about today is something that affects more people than you know. And quite honestly, in the past, we probably dealt with it and didn't know we were dealing with it with other
Yeah.
people, right? And people were, having these conditions. And I ain't gonna lie to you, when we was in elementary, we was probably rough on some of these kids that had these conditions because we didn't know better, right? But when you know better, you do better, right? And as you move forward and you become more educated on things, you can pass that down to your kids. So hopefully they won't do the same things that that we did because of our ignorance, in our youth. So
Right.
before we get started,
Mhm.
I want to make sure that we give the audience a little bit of background on you. So I'm going to ask you to let them know what your name. I know I say Kia,
Yes.
but that's not your government name.
I'm a government name.
So can you tell them your name, give them a little background about yourself, a little what your education is, and kind of what you do?
Okay. So my government name, as given to me by my mom, is Kianisha Norman hyphen Devers. That's how I chose to do my married name. But I do go by Kia. It's a lot easier for some people. And honestly, I just don't like people messing up my name. So I go with Kia. Um, I am I am a wife. I am a mother. I have three strapping young men as my bonus children, and they are 18, 25, and 27. And I have a 9-year-old daughter, and she is 9 going on 29. Very, very active and full of joy. And this is a little harder to say, but I'm also a grandmother. I have an almost 1-year-old grandson from our oldest, and so that's to say that is a little rough, but still he is absolutely gorgeous and just growing so fast. Um, so I was born and raised here in Dallas, Texas. Grew up here, went to Catholic school from K through 12th, and then moved to Philly to go to the University of Pennsylvania, where I graduated there with a bachelor's in sociology and a minor in history. And then I was bitten by the education bug. I really fought it. I was like, teachers don't make enough money, kids are bad, all these things. But I truly, in order for me to be at the University of Pennsylvania, with all the um, sacrifices that my mom and my aunts made for me, I still needed to have three jobs. And so one of the jobs had me working at Charles Drew Elementary, I think that was the name of it, where a fourth grader literally bit me. And I came home that day and was just talking to my mom and just going off. And she, at the end, when I calmed down, she said, "You're going to tell me you're going to teach, aren't you?" And I said, "I think so." And so from there, I did move down to Atlanta, and through Teach for America, I taught there with middle school. A couple of years into that, I started a charter school for fifth through eighth graders down in Atlanta. After that, for a couple of years, I moved back home to Dallas, and I got into the business of things,
Mm.
education into business, or so I thought. The company that I was with wanted to expand into working with some charter schools, and they had me, and it seemed like a great little match. And so I was able to work with Texans Can and Responsive Ed Solutions and help them to develop a program to help their students with at-risk factors understand what their post-secondary options were and to help them matriculate in that pathway. From there, I went into ed tech. And so when you think about if your child comes home and they're doing Study Island or IXL or Edmentum or anything like that, that's the area that I was in. And I was in that for, oh God, 15 years or so. Yeah, I'm dating myself. Um, and learned a lot about the business of ed in that. It was definitely trial by fire because ed tech it can be very volatile, and it definitely moves with politics. Um, Whoever's in charge, you kind of float back and forth. And that's what I ended up just doing. Like I realized I had a love for ed tech. I also had a love for developing people. And
Mm.
so as I've been working in ed tech, the last probably about 5 years of that time, it's been in leadership and helping to develop customer success teams and professional development teams. to go out and work with teachers and superintendents and boards, and et cetera, to help them understand everything from the platforms that they're using and how to use those instructional tools, all the way to understanding their schedules. Is there equity in their schedules? Are they truly making sure that students who might have some exceptionalities, which we'll probably talk about today, are getting access to the same rigorous courses that they should, because their other students are getting that access. In between there, I also ran 1 million square feet of warehouse space for Rubbermaid, and that's a whole different thing. I learned how to drive a cherry picker and that kind of stuff. So I've done some things. I've done some things. But all in all, my calling has always been around educating and facilitating the learning of individuals and helping to create safe spaces for people to become their best selves.
Wow, that's a lot. You have a wealth of experience. I just
I
want to
just
point out
fucking
two
feel
things.
real old.
No, 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 no. You're very well versed in things that are amazing. But I gotta point out something funny, because if y'all watch the show, y'all know Big Ken. I like to cut up. I like to laugh. She said she got bit by the education bug. She got bit by a kid,
I did.
literally.
It was literally, I was bitten by a fourth grader. And I don't remember his name, but I can still see his face right now. I see us standing in that stairwell going down to his reading class where he was getting remediation, and he didn't want to go. And he bit my arm. And
Whoo,
I
down.
won't say what happened next because I don't know the statute of limitations, but he didn't bite me again.
And you know what? The crazy thing is, I think being around so many educators, and to just let people know, my first degree was in education. So I'm well versed in that as well, and I've been around it my whole life. So being an educator is not easy by any
No.
means. It's a job that you definitely have to be passionate about in order to be good at it.
Yes.
So, it's not one of those jobs where you can slide by with it. Eventually, if it's not something that you're passionate about or something that you don't have a love for, you're going to be exposed.
Oh yeah. The
Yeah,
kids will expose you
yeah, yeah,
really quickly.
yeah.
And yeah, that's if you're sticking with it and you're just not like a sadomasochist, then there's a passion there, there's a calling on your life. And I have said to many people that ask me, would you go back to teaching? And I'm very clear with this. It would take Jesus Christ himself to come sit on the foot of my bed at midnight, show me his hands, and write me a letter that says, this is what I need you to do, for me to go back into the classroom.
Hey, I
All of
completely
that.
understand.
All of that.
Yeah, I completely understand, because the classroom is a different monster.
Oh
When
yeah.
people talk about education, there's so many pieces to the
Mhm.
puzzle and so many avenues that you can take when you go down the education route. Most people start at the same kind of start, but
Yeah.
as you continue to go through, sometimes people want to be a teacher their whole career.
Mhm.
Sometimes people start out as teachers and they say, hey, I want to go into higher ed. I want to go to this level. I want to be a principal. There's so many different pieces to the puzzle that have to be filled, because education is a lot of moving parts, right? And there are a lot of layers to educating a child. Some people don't pay attention to it too much because they just think that education stops at school. They don't feel like when the kid comes home that they need to do anything in order to complement what the
Mhm.
teacher is doing, or what anybody in education is doing to help that child during the time that they're actually at school. So
Yeah.
um there's a lot of layers to it, but again, we appreciate anybody in the education field, anybody that has a passion for educating the kids and spending time doing things that's going to help them, because there are future leaders, and there are future people, they're going to be taking care of us one day. So
Woo!
hopefully, you know what I'm saying, things
Maybe.
will continue to progress in a great way. And you know, with the great educators that we have out there, hats off to y'all.
Amen. Amen.
You know, it's interesting too when you talk about the tech piece of it.
Mhm.
You know, when we were in school, there was no such thing as really, you know, tech anything, you know, and if it was tech, it was low tech. It was
Commodore
basics.
64.
Yeah, it was basic stuff. So it wasn't like this amazing technology that's out there now. So when you mentioned that, my antennas went up because some of the programs that you mentioned, with me having kids of my own, I've watched them be able to utilize those programs, and they really help.
Yeah.
And they really help kids also who have other conditions that might not make education for them an easy route, right?
Yes.
That have difficulties. And we're good, we're definitely going to get into that because that's the crux of what we want to talk about today. And
Yeah.
that's what your book kind of deals with. And might I add, in a great way, because
Thank you.
listen, let me explain to y'all. Like she's an author of a book, right? And it's a children's book per se. But when I was reading it, I became engrossed in the book, right? Right. Because I'm old school. I'm looking across my room right here. I have a full bookshelf because I'm old school. I can't read on a tablet. I hate it.
Mhm.
I'm a nerd, so I have to have a actual
Yeah.
paperback or hardcover book in my hand to read it. I mean, you know, I can read on an iPad if, you know, if I had to, but I don't prefer it, right? I prefer, you know what I'm saying, to have it in my hand. So to be able to get a real copy of this book and to be able to sit and read it a couple of times like I did, I was very impressed. I was
Yeah.
very impressed, and there are some things in there that people are going to notice that fall into the realm of what I call representation for other kids
Yeah.
who are usually not highlighted in school unless they have an issue, right?
Yeah.
So it's very important when you have representation. We talk about this a lot when we have, you know, black kids
Mhm.
and cartoons and things of that nature. When they see a character in there that has hair like them, that has
Yeah.
a nose like theirs, it's encouraging to them because it's like, wow, I see somebody that represents me in another light, and it's encouraging for kids. So, shout out to you for putting that together because I mean, I think if people buy this book, they're going to be surprised, and it's going to be one that you want to have on your coffee table, especially if you got kids running around, kids that come visit. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Tell them, hey, pick up that book, check out that book. You know what I'm saying? Because you're gonna learn something real quick, and adults too, because there's questions in the back. There's
Absolutely.
author's notes in the front that give you a
Yeah.
little bit of information, and I learned a lot just from reading it. So, you know, but like I said, we're going to get into that. But before we get too far, we have some comments that started rolling in. So let's get to
Okay.
some of these comments. Somebody that you may know,
Okay.
Chastity Allen Sullivan, said she need to go ahead and tell the people her nickname.
That would be my cousin and your friend from long ago.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh,
And
she
it's
cut.
it's okay. I'm proud of it. Yes, my family and friends know me as Nene.
Yeah. Yeah, so and my guy Benji Banks, shout out to my guy. He's under the weather, but he's in the comments. He said, "Bitten by a kid is wild."
Yeah, that's Benji. We could talk about something. The first time my husband hung out with me and like my friends that were all part of this group of newer teachers, and he heard the stories that we were sharing, he was like, I just, if I didn't hear him, like if you just told him to me, I wouldn't have believed it because it just seemed so outlandish. And I'm like, oh, you just heard the top. Like we've suppressed some of the worst things that went on. Because at least for us, like we used to say, we don't teach in the hood, we teach under the hood. Like it was rough. But I will also say this. Thank God for social media in this respect, because I still have a way of seeing these kids who are now grown adults with their
Mhm.
own kids, married, and seeing some of them that we were able to pour into and them being successful in their own right. You know, I get to a couple of weeks ago, one of my first students, I get to see him getting baptized. And
Wow.
because he has kept up with me since 2000, and he finds me wherever I am, I've seen some of the things that he's gone through. And so being able to see him, make that step, that just filled me with such joy. And here I am, I get to let him know that I'm so proud of him, or when a young lady who was so bright, and now she's followed in our footsteps, and she's become a principal, and now she's a mom, and you just it's a wonderful thing. So it was full of a lot of challenges, a lot of things that you alluded to at the start, um, but it also has such wonderful rewards, that we get to see and be a part of. And so I still wouldn't trade it for the world. I wouldn't have traded it for the world. I don't feel the need to go back, but I wouldn't have traded it for the world.
And see, I think, being an educator is one of the few jobs where you get to actually see, the product
Absolutely.
develop, right?
Yeah.
Long after that. And, being an educator is one of the few jobs too where you affect lives for the rest of their life, right?
Hmm.
As you said, you can see these kids later on in life and they're doing big things because everybody that's somebody had a teacher,
Hmm.
right? And it was I posted a video this week of shared a video of Boosie when
That's what
he
I was just
was
about to bring up. When
yeah,
his
he was
sister
yeah,
surprised
yeah,
him, he was a
yes.
total mess.
Yes, and as crazy as Boosie is and as hard
Crazy.
as he is, he,
Hmm.
he it seeing his old teacher that was his favorite teacher, she meant
Yep.
so much to him. It brought Boosie to
To
thug tears.
Yeah, to
He
real.
cried thug
Yeah.
tears, but I get it because in a lot of instances, kids don't have encouragement at home in their home environment and the people around them on a day-to-day basis when they leave the school. So the encouragement comes from teachers, people, maybe at their church and things like that. So for a lot of people, their teachers are their sole source of that
Yeah.
propel them and encourage them. So I mean,
I think
again,
that's a part. Yeah, I think that's a part that a lot of people forget, and we see that now politically and things like that. One of my first administrators, she was our dean of students. Um, she At that time my name was Norman, and she said, "Miss Norman," because I was upset at something the principal had done, and she said, "Miss Norman, sometimes when you're away from the barn long enough, you forget what the animals smell like." I mean, that was 25 years ago when she told me that, and it stuck with me. Um, because a lot of people who are not engrossed in that kind of world, they forget what it's like to create a space for children who might not have any other space that is safe, and to challenge them to want different, to think differently. That is exhausting, but that is what the teacher does every single day. And without us supporting them pay wise, without us supporting them with the appropriate professional development that they deserve, um, it's too much to ask. It's just too much to ask. And at the end of the day, with them suffering, our kids suffer. The things that we did at my school for our students went far beyond, you know, anything you would think, um, that a teacher and a principal should do. Purchasing beds, purchasing a week stay, like putting our money together to get a family for a week in a extended stay. Um, you know, we had this thing in our school where the students could earn what we call Ghana's points, Ghana's dollars. and we asked them, like, what types of things do you want in the general store? And we're thinking they're going to say hot Cheetos and sunflower seeds, all the things that we hated. Um, and you know what they asked for? Detergent, deodorant, extra uniform shirts. That's what they wanted. They saw us coming in there dressed nicely, dressed professionally, and they wanted to emulate that. And so instead of them wanting the hot Cheetos and the sunflower seeds and the really, really sugary quarter water drinks, they wanted new uniform shirts. They wanted deodorant and detergent and yeah.
See,
So
these
yeah.
things like that that I think a lot of people don't think about again. And just thinking back to when we were in elementary, and I attended school in the hood.
Mhm.
So, you have kids that come to school, and I took it for granted because my mom washed clothes couple times a week.
Mhm.
I always had clean clothes. I always could, people used to always say, "Ken, you always smell like washing powder." But you know, but I took it for granted, right?
Yeah,
Because there was that kid that was at school that people teased and said they smell like pee or they stink. And as a kid, we laugh and we joke about it, but as an adult, you look back at that type of stuff and you know that their environment wasn't right and they needed some assistance. And doing the things that you just pointed out is huge from an educator standpoint because you're going above and beyond, right? They already don't pay educators enough.
no,
Let me say that again. They already don't pay educators
no.
enough. So you're taking your money, not only buying things for them to utilize outside of school, but
Mhm.
a lot of people don't realize educators supply some of the things that the kids utilize in the classroom every
Oh,
day.
yeah.
It comes out of the
Yeah.
educators' pockets.
Mhm.
So not only are you underpaid, but then you're spending additional funds to help someone else's child who maybe can't help their child or don't have the resources. And some of them have well more resources, but they just
Yeah,
won't
but they
do it.
choose not to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, because I'm telling you, I'd be hard pressed to help a kid that comes in there with better Jordans than I got on. I'd be hard pressed to help him. You know what I'm saying? Because I understand I gotta educate
Yeah.
you,
Yeah. But
but
I don't have to do that.
buy you supplies and you come in here with what I'm saying, exclusive J's on your feet. I'm like,
Right,
what's going on here?
right.
Because your
So
mama just
this
told
has
us that she
and
couldn't
weight
get.
management.
Yeah,
So
because your mama just told us she couldn't afford this stuff. You know what I'm saying? We had on the supply list, but you got 2 or 3 pair of exclusive J's, and I know them run your pockets a little bit. So
yeah,
yeah, man, it's just it's things like that that people don't think about when they think about educators, and they just think about the teacher. They just think about what the teacher experiences from their eyes as a student when
yeah,
they were in that class. But until you become an educator and you see the things from that side, it's a whole new lens. And
absolutely.
another thing I like to tell people about educators is educators have to take on so much because can you imagine, like you just said, having to buy a child some washing powder or having to keep deodorant or having to keep feminine hygiene products in your classroom, in your closet, because kids come to school ill prepared for that type of stuff, right?
Or
And
taking bags of uniforms home so you can wash them.
yeah, that too, because
That's what we
I've heard teachers do that too, and I even know some teachers that when they have the uniforms on sale at the beginning of the school
Yep.
year, they buy extra uniforms in different sizes just to keep in their room.
Mhm.
That
Mhm.
that itself is amazing, and people got to understand if you know educators and you know people who are in the education field and you can afford to help them, they're your friends. Don't just listen to the stories of them pouring their heart out to you about things that they're experiencing on a day-to-day basis. Help them.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like lend a hand. I ain't saying you got to spend hundreds of dollars, but hey,
Right.
you know what? I was in the store that had these shirts on sale. I know you said that you always buy them. Here's a package of shirts, or here's
Yeah.
5 shirts. You know what I'm saying? I just want to donate to, what I'm saying, your closet at school where you can help these kids out. So there's so many things that people can do to help, but we just have to continue to encourage people because a lot of times people focus on their own child
Yeah.
and forget that, when there are other children around your child or your child's friends.
Mm-hmm.
Some of your child's friends are suffering too, and
Mm-hmm.
it affects your child as well if your child's friend is suffering.
Well,
So
and it manifests itself in the classroom during the learning time. We can jokingly talk about Deion Sanders saying, if I look good, I play good, blah 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 blah. But that's real. If I look and feel good, I am more apt to try my best, to want to be a part of the group. But if I come in and I know I smell, my clothes smell, it smells like cigarette, or it can smell like things that are unsavory, or they're dirty. I feel like everyone, especially as I get older, feel like everyone is looking at me. So I'm gonna pull away. I'm angry because I don't know how to articulate that. So if I'm doing group work, I don't want to really participate. I'm mad at you because I'm trying to get you away from me before you say something that's going to hurt my feelings. And so that prevents the learning from happening.
yeah,
Um, yeah, it's not as simple as, oh, they need some clothes, so I'll buy it. It's like, what happens once you invest in that way in that child, you build them up, and that makes them more apt to try to be successful in that classroom. So
yeah, nah, you say you said something real there because I'm telling you, confidence goes a long way, right?
absolutely.
And how you look and how you smell and how you
Mhm.
feel, it all helps in the grand scheme of, trying to get this child focused so you can educate them. Because that's the biggest thing is getting them to focus so
Yeah.
you can actually properly educate them. Because I ain't gonna lie to you, when we was in elementary, there's a lot other stuff to focus on in the
Yeah.
classroom. And when they talk about something say squirrel and you just looking
Yeah.
around. I mean, that's how it really is. If people remember as a kid, or maybe it was just me because I was bad. I was a bad kid, and I was all over the place. Shout out to people who went to elementary with me because they can vouch for that. I'm a changed man though. As I started getting older, thank God for change. Because yeah, I was into a lot of stuff. But but yeah, man. I mean, being able to help these kids in so many ways requires a lot of an educator, and it requires certain people to be able to do that job. Because listen, there are a lot of people who want to be educators because some of them feel like they can, affect change that way. And I encourage people who want to do that to go and, substitute or
Yes.
go and visit a class or go to your
Yeah.
child's class, and
Mhm.
just sit in and be a parent volunteer, right?
Yeah.
Or just be around it first before you completely immerse yourself in something like that because it's a huge undertaking. It
It
really
is.
is.
It
It's
really,
a
really.
it's a lot. It's a lot that comes with that. So, like they always say, too much is given, much is required. So
Yeah.
when you're given that opportunity to affect that many lives on a day-to-day basis, it's a lot that comes with that. So
Absolutely.
you have to be very, 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 very prepared to do that job. So,
Yep.
Hey guys,
Patricia,
I'm here. I made it. How's it
yeah,
going?
yeah, yeah, yeah. We're deep in the conversation about education and educating because I think people forget how important educators are. They don't want to talk to a teacher until the child's in trouble.
Right.
Mhm.
Right. They don't want to go up to the school unless the child is in trouble.
Right.
If everything is going good, they don't check in with the teacher to see if they need some help or need some assistance. I'm not gonna lie to you, when my boys were little, especially, um, I got volunteer of the year a couple of times because my job was started late in the evening. At that point, I started work at 2 o'clock, 2 p.m. So a lot of times in the morning, I would drop them off and just stay at the school,
Mm.
right, and help in the classroom, volunteer,
Hey,
and
okay.
yeah, so that's before I went back to school to get my degree in education. So that's part of what made me want to do that because especially as a man, and let's be honest, a black
Absolutely.
man in the school, it means a lot when you're around those kids because they have a healthy fear of authority.
Yeah.
especially when you have a big guy walking down the hallways like me. It it affects change. And the couple of years that I actually taught, the teachers were distraught when I said, no, I'm leaving, I'm going into another job field. And they were like, wow, you just really gonna leave us? Because the kids change so much. Even just on my planning period, I ain't gonna lie to you. At that point, I was physical education, so my planning period wasn't much planning going on because I kind of had my stuff already done.
Yeah.
With the coaches, you kind of had your stuff already worked out. So I would just walk around and look in the classroom doors and just put my face in the little window, and the kids would see me. Oh, that's Coach Boston. That's Coach Boston. But it meant a lot
Yeah.
because the teachers was like, oh, they know you're gonna come around. Their behavior is a little different. Or if I had, young men especially who had behavior issues, they would send them to me and I would have a conversation with them, and they respected it because a lot of those young men, because I taught in the community that I live in, they knew they knew me as a coach outside of the school.
Mhm.
They knew me as coaching youth football. So they knew me from that aspect, and they knew my sons. So they knew I wasn't playing games with them.
Right.
So it's just a lot of things
Really
that
catch them outside. You could really catch them outside.
yeah, no, I literally had some kids that that were part of the youth football organization that I coached at, and they were students at the school as well. So they knew if you do something here and I find out about it, when we get to practice today, we're gonna have a problem. So, it's just small things that you can do to help affect change. And like I said, you don't necessarily have to be a coach or a member of the staff. You can volunteer, and you ain't got to volunteer every day. I had
Right.
schools that I went to and just volunteered, once a month. You have a school here in Dallas that has mock interviews,
Mm.
right? Where the kids come in and they sit down and they interview for a job. You know what I'm saying? And you just go through the process of asking them questions and helping them have better interview skills. I enjoyed that thoroughly because it was helping these kids. And I knew that at some point these kids would have to be sitting in front of somebody doing an interview.
Hmm.
So if I can help them, have better skills and sit down and be able to articulate themselves and get themselves a job, get them employed, get them into college or things, whatever they need to interview for, I was all for that. And that's just out of my own time. I was taking days off from work to go do that. But,
That's
like I said, it's just something you have to do as an individual if you want to
Yeah.
see change in your community. You can't wait on it. You can't expect somebody else to do it. You have to be part of the change that you want to see. So
Absolutely.
so
Absolutely.
we definitely want to get into the book now. But
Okay.
before we get into the book, can you tell everybody kind of because listen, I'm gonna be honest with you, as I tell people all the time on the show, she is an author. She has a book. It's available on Amazon. We want you to buy the book. So we ain't gonna
absolutely
we not gonna give you everything. We just gonna give you a little taste of what's there so you can go and purchase the book and have something great to add to your book collection and have hopefully you buy like 10, because if you got like
Yeah.
10 and then like you give it to other kids and stuff, see what I was just saying is doing something good for somebody outside of yourself. That's what you can do. You can do
Yeah.
that for some other kids as well. So before we do
yeah.
that, before we go into the sales pitch again, tell people just the general idea of the book, and then we'll dive into details of it because I actually read the book multiple times and I got some questions.
Okay. Perfect. So anyone who knows me, and people probably here knows that there's always sort of that the story behind it. I feel like God talks to me in stories. Like Jesus had parables, he talks to me in stories. Um, my daughter is 9, and last school year, we at her school had her tested for dyslexia. And there was a push on our end because third grade is your first testing year in Texas, in a lot of states, in most states. And so What we didn't want is for our thought that this was dyslexia. Um, and I, full transparency, it was my thought, and my husband was looking at me like, "You think? Really?" And so, and that happens. I wanted to be transparent because that does happen, especially when you have one parent that's been an educator, and then the other parent that observes the child but is not working with them with their schoolwork. And so she and her cousin were on FaceTime, and they were looking at this app that she uses for her little chore credit card. And they were going through this piece. And her cousin made a statement about her being slower reading. And I saw my daughter's face, and I heard her do this kind of nervous chuckle. And I stopped what I was doing. I was in the process of making some of my decorative candles. And I stopped and I said, "This is a teachable moment. So let's just come together." And at that time, I said, "You realize your cousin has dyslexia." And so she, was like precocious, and she's like, "Well, what's that?" And I explained it to her. I explained to her that dyslexia is a learning difference, and it affects how someone reads, writes, and spells in general. And so it doesn't mean that she's not as smart or as developed or on pace. It just means that it takes her longer to get through it. And so we had that discussion. It went well, and everyone was fine. And after that conversation, I talked to Cortland, and I said, "Baby, anytime you have that, no matter if it's a family member, friend, someone you don't even know, don't hold that in. You let them know what's going on, because you don't want anyone thinking that you're not smart enough, because that's not the case. You're on the AB honor roll. You got this." And that evening, I was like, I need to find a book that's geared towards kids that would help them understand this. And so I looked on Amazon, because that's what you do. And I couldn't find anything that really did what I was asking. And the next day, as I was walking to my car, I said, "Oh, I got to remember to look a little bit harder for that book." And in my opinion, the Holy Spirit said, "Or you could write it." And I said, "Or I could write it." And I went home and I started writing. And in a matter of a week, I had it done. Um, Part of my ADHD, which is some neurodiversity on my end, is I can be hyper focused. I can truly focus in on something, and everything else will just cease to exist around me. So there's some bad parts about it. But in writing this book, what I wanted to do was explore the from the child's perspective, how they encounter dyslexia and the constraints that it can put on them, but also how they can discover their own superpowers. That's what in the community we like to talk about, them having superpowers. Because a lot of people will see dyslexia and say, "Oh, that person can't read," or something like that. And that's a complete myth. That's a complete myth. But people with dyslexia tend to have very strong problem solving skills. They're very creative and imaginative, um, big picture thinking. Sometimes there's a bad thing because they see this big old picture and it becomes overwhelming. Um, and when it comes to storytelling, they have excellent memory for that. And they learn resilience and adaptability. And I wanted to explore that in the context of the protagonist, Elise, which is named after my daughter, Cortland Elise, um, experiencing some of the things that make her also feel a lot of anxiety. And so that's what I attempted to do in the story with her and three of her cousins, who are actually based on three of her actual cousins. Um, you'll also see some. I kind of dabble a little bit in autism and ADHD, both inattentive and hyperactivity. Um, and for autism, both sort of Asperger's is no longer, I think, considered autistic. It's not on the spectrum, but that kind of end of the spectrum to the nonverbal. Um, because I think people also don't realize just how broad neurodiversity is. And so that was really the goal of the book. How do I tell this story with her facing these challenges that really are results of her dyslexia, but in facing those, realizing that she has these super important, super awesome powers that can help her achieve her goals, even if it's not the way someone else would do it.
Okay. So, I mean, that's a lot to digest
Yes.
as a parent. Well, I'm just saying as a parent, my first question and the first thing that popped into my mind was when you were given this news that she has dyslexia, like how did you feel as a parent? You know,
Yeah.
because that I mean, I know when they tell you your child has anything that's not considered regular,
Mhm.
it's kind of a shock to your system. So how did you feel?
So great question. Um, I, I I believe it was a wave of things that I felt. On the first hand, it was vindication. It's like I knew it. I knew it since she was 3. I knew it. Um, and I was like, I saw that. Then um, I felt like a horrible mother because my thought was, well, why didn't you push more? Why didn't you get her tested earlier? But I was also trying to see things and let her teachers see things because as an educator, you're looking at everything, and I didn't want to overdiagnose. Um, and then there was fear. There was fear of what does this mean for her um, in in her schooling. Um, what does this look like when she gets to middle school? What does this look like when she gets to high school and college? Because um, some people have a fear of labels. And I feel like a lot of times it's usually not the teacher person who has a fear of the labels, it's the parent who might have seen kids labeled or bullied someone who is labeled. For me, I recognized that this label will enable. What it does is it gives her and her parents the ability to step into that education environment and make sure that it is aligned to what is in her individualized education plan, her IEP. And a lot of times parents feel like, oh, can I go in? Can I not? Can I go in? Well, this gives us license to do that. Um, and so it was all of those feelings at once during her first meeting, over to go over her IEP. I did cry at the end. People who know me know that didn't take much. The wind blows the wrong way, I can cry. But it did, it affected me because it all was real then. And all I could think about was, okay, what does this mean? What does this mean? What does this mean? She has third and fourth grade here at this school, and then she goes to intermediate and so forth and so on. And then I also had the elation that if you grew up watching the Cosby Show when they found out that Theo had dyslexia, everybody was happy because it made sense then. It made sense that some of the struggles I was seeing, and I was just like, oh my God, is she like, are you listening? And it wasn't that. It wasn't that she wasn't listening because I have a daughter who aims to please. So that didn't make sense to me anyway. Like, why would you do that? Because you always want to please people. No, there was a reason behind it. The other piece, and I give so much credit to Mansfield ISD, which is the district that we are in here. Um, they started to provide some of those services that she would get as accommodations before we even finished her evaluation. Like, we were all on the same page, the teachers and everyone. We were noticing the same things, and we were able to breathe a sigh of relief. Like, okay, I don't have to fuss with this parent because she actually sees it. And I'm thinking, I don't have to beg this teacher because she actually sees it. And so they started to give her when, what I need time, and those things with the dyslexia teacher. And so in talking to Cortland, what made me feel so good, so this is the roller coaster, was she felt better. She had a name to call this thing she was experiencing. She had expectations that her teachers knew, her parents knew, the school knew. And if something wasn't right, she could come and tell me, and knew that I could come there and help. I could find out what's going on. If she's taking a test and she does, one of her accommodations is that she gets it read to her on, through the headset. Well, if they don't allow her to do that, she comes and she's going to say, "Mommy, I took a test today. It was timed and I didn't get it read to me. She didn't read the question and I couldn't listen to it." Well, what does that do for mommy? Well, let me get on this phone and see what happened. What is this? And it's not, antagonistic. I'm not coming at the teacher. I'm just finding out, is this a practice test? Because if it's practice, she needs to practice the way she's going to take it.
Yeah.
But it gives her the ability to say, no, I know what I need. I know what I'm supposed to get. And even if, because I'm such a good girl, I don't want to say it out loud, I can tell my mom and she's going to handle that. So
Yeah.
that's all those emotions. And, but I think it was her response and her continued responses that have just made us all be like, yeah, this is the right decision.
Okay. Well, I mean, I can only imagine how difficult it is, and we had some comments that were coming through. Chastity Allen Sullivan was saying that I mean, for her, she was like, you go through the same cycle of grief as
Yeah,
you if you lost someone when you get a diagnosis
you do.
for your child, and um I can only imagine, man, because we had a whole episode 167 of the show where we talked about IEP and
Yes,
504
I listened
plans.
on that one. Yep.
So people have to understand how important those are, and you shouldn't feel embarrassed if your child is it has any condition that requires a 504 plan
Yeah.
or an IEP, because they need that. They
Yeah.
need that in order to be successful.
Yes.
So if you want to set your child up for success, go talk to the school, give them every tool that's possible for them to be successful. So and I can only imagine how hard it is and how difficult it is to come to the reality of it for some people. But at the end of the day, you want to help your child. So put your feelings and stuff that you got going through your head to the side, and just focus on the child, and make sure that child is good moving forward. So
It's a hard pill to swallow.
yeah.
You feel like maybe you failed your child and all these things, and like should have seen it earlier and so forth. And as Chastity stated, you go through the stages of grief, and you go through them multiple times. It's not like just the one, because especially when they are younger and they get to pubescent adolescence, and those things, those hormones and things, those are real. Those are real in a real sort of way, but it shifts the brain and how the brain functions. And so what used to be how she would manifest when she's frustrated or something is not how she's manifesting it now, And so, especially with boys. Um, a lot of times dyslexia is comorbid with ADHD. And sometimes, especially with boys, because boys tend to have more of the hyperactive ADHD, so they're seen as bad, they're disruptive. um it's masking the dyslexia. And so you'll have the school, the parents addressing the ADHD that they think or they know is there, and not really addressing some of the underlying issues that are comorbid with it. On the flip side, for girls, we typically are inattentive, meaning we kind of daydream, we might get seem flighty, we could have the best grades in the world, but it takes us so much energy to get them because we've got to focus and we're inattentive. And so all of those things are working together. You add in the hormones, and boy, oh boy, you've got a mess. And Ken, I know you and I talked about this Sunday, because this is a leap, but it's connected. 50 to 80% of incarcerated individuals have dyslexia. Now, in the general population, 15 to 20% have dyslexia. So in the world out here, in our general population in the United States, about 15 to 20%, okay? About 1 in every 5 people. When you get into the prison systems, you can have up to 80% of those individuals having dyslexia. And we talked about this, but only about like 10% of those that have dyslexia in prisons are actually formally diagnosed. So the majority of those individuals are walking around with dyslexia and not knowing it. Now, I want you to think about it like this. Let's say that you have this delicious burger in front of you. It's wrapped in this nice little thing to keep it all warm and stuff. And you cannot use your hands. Or you have gloves on your hand, mittens on your hands, and you want to get to this burger. Imagine the amount of energy it takes to get to that burger. By the time you get to the burger, you're starving, you're hangry, you're frustrated, you're wondering why the heck do you have mittens for hands? All of this. And you might not even enjoy that burger anymore. You might not even eat the whole thing because you're like, I'm just tired. For a person with dyslexia, they have to use so much energy to decode that when it gets to comprehension, like understanding what they just decoded, what they just read through, they're on empty. So now the basic thing, I'm reading what's on the cafeteria menu. And by the end of it, I'm just like, okay, because that word is not that word, because that word spelled that way. I don't know. Just give me the salad. Like, you're exhausted. And that's what happens in school. That exhaustion, that being upset, that feeling like the world's against you. Think about how many people in our lives and our families that have been in prison that express things like that. They're always angry, feel like the world's against them. Well, that's because they are trying to eat that burger with mittens on every single day, all day, because we're always reading something. Um, and it's that kind of situation that I want people to understand when it comes to dyslexia, especially, but neurodivergence in general, ADHD, autism, those types of things. You are fighting to be successful or just survive in a very neurotypical world without the tools to do so. And no one is giving you the tools. Yeah.
That's that's tough, and as you mentioned, we were talking about it on Sunday, with the prison population, with so many of those individuals, being in that number of people who have dyslexia and not even diagnosed with it. It makes sense. It makes sense with their frustration, with their desperation, right?
Mhm.
Of trying to, a lot of them trying to, just get the basic necessities in life, and they feel like they
Right.
have to do things the illegal way to get it because they're so frustrated and put out with, what I'm saying, trying to do it the traditional way because it's
Mhm.
not working for them. And they don't have an answer for why it's not working for them because they haven't been helped. And,
Or
I
they've
can't
been
lie.
told that the answer is you're just a bad person. You don't try
Yeah.
hard enough. You don't do the right things. You don't make the right decisions. So why?
And
Why?
that's what I was going to mention too, because I know people that's in our age group, no shame, I just turned 45. So, people that grew up in our day and time, people weren't getting diagnosed with
No,
dyslexia back then.
Right.
no.
So there was plenty of people that we went to school with that suffered
Mhm.
from that. And I feel bad because, your boy Ken, again, I cut up, I acted up in elementary, I was a clown. So I was that guy who, if a kid couldn't read, I would volunteer them. I would be like, "Hey, Jimmy, want to read?
Oh,
Jimmy can read after
Yeah,
me."
wow.
he said Jimmy, he could
I
read.
I know,
Wow.
I
The
know.
trauma you caused.
It's terrible, but I'm transparent and I prayed about it and asked God for forgiveness
There you go.
because as a kid, it's just ignorance. It's just me trying to cut up and be funny for people because that's the way I expressed myself, right?
Yeah.
And I look back at it now and I'm like, man, I'm pretty sure there were some of those kids who had dyslexia
Yeah.
and they were having difficulties, and we just didn't know enough about any of it, and their parents didn't know enough about any of it to encourage them to get tested and things like that. And like I said, quite honestly, I can't even recall what the testing parameters were in the 80s, in elementary for something like this,
Usually
or even if they
someone
were in place.
Yeah, you would, in order to be tested, a lot of times it was attached to well, two big things, and unless your parents pushed it. One was behavior.
Mm-hmm.
If you were a disruption, something must
Yeah.
be wrong with you, you know. And then those students who, in their fight or flight kind of response to all of the stuff in their environment, they would just stop. They would freeze and they wouldn't do anything. So then, of course, we would use that R word to talk about them. Those were really the ways that you would get into this pathway. And then a lot of parents were afraid of that. Like, then you put my child in this other classroom and they're riding a different bus and they enter a different, door. And, to kind of loop it back to our cousin, the superhero, that I wanted to make it accessible so that a teacher could read this and talk about it in the classroom to help students know, well, first of all, being neurodiverse is not a bad thing.
Right.
There are people who can shoot a basketball. There are people who can throw a football. There are people who can do cartwheels. There are people who can do all these different things. We all have different talents. Doesn't make one better than the other. Might make you make more money on some things, but not better. Um, and so to give them a place that they could go in the book, read it, engage the students, ask the questions at the end, the reflection questions, but also something that if I'm a teacher and I'm seeing these things within the student, but I know their parent is a little hesitant. Um, Here's this book. I want you to just kind of read it. I think there's something going on. In the front, it's going to talk to you about neurodiversity and something about dyslexia. Not saying that that's what your child has, but I'm seeing some things, and I want to know: do you notice some of the things that Elise is going through with your child at home? Because I'm noticing some things. So it just makes the conversation more palatable. And if they are children of color, then it makes it look like, oh, it's kids that look like me. And they like to have fun. They like to go on adventures in the backyard and use their imaginations, and they get upset and all these things. And they like ice cream, and cupcakes and things like that. Um, I just wanted it to be accessible so that it's not just a book that a school would buy and put in their library and hope a kid picks it up, but that teachers and after school care workers and parents and board members would start to embrace it and use it as an instructional tool as well, so that we can normalize the conversation around neurodiversity, and really help people understand it's not something to call someone out on. Ken, you just didn't know. Um, but it's actually something that could spark a conversation. Like, do you like doing crafts? Do you like doing this? Do you like making up stories? Because those are attributes of a lot of students who are neurodiverse, and especially for students who have dyslexia, because there is a literal part of their brain that when it's all lit up, it is smaller and it doesn't react the same way for those of us who do not have dyslexia. Like, the size of that part of the brain that lights up is tremendously different. So it's not, something they're making up or because they're not working hard enough. Like, literally in their brain, it works differently. But there are other sections of their brains that light up bright. And those of us who are more neurotypical, I'm not, but neurotypical, they don't light up as brightly. So yeah, to just be able to use it as a tool, and if in any way prevent this school to prison kind of pipeline. you
Mhm.
know as a teacher, you hear the story of third grade. By then you can tell how big the prison population is going to be in about 10-15 years. And it's true, like, literally the data flows. um and when we start to understand that so many of those people who are incarcerated are struggling either mentally or intellectually, and not something where it can't be fixed, not something that just can't be fixed. We're not talking about psychopathy and those things. We're talking about literally feeling like I can read. I can take, my girlfriend to the restaurant and read that entire menu and order for her. Think about that as a young man in high school, being able to do that, how that makes you feel like a man. And I hope I don't offend anyone by saying that, using these kind of cisgender terms, but it really does help you feel a certain way. And we just think about how many times we have to read something. Um, yeah, so I want to make sure that we're using this as a tool, and that we don't see it as, oh, I'll just give it to the kids who have dyslexia. No, this
Yeah.
is about educating us all.
I like how you mentioned like approach, like making it a conversational piece from like
Absolutely.
teacher to parent, because very much so it's the third or fourth grade by that time they know, because I believe that's when a teacher came to me in a very much, your kid won't be still, your kid won't be quiet, he got ADHD, go get him tested. He didn't have any, he just was smart, so he was finished and he was
Yeah.
bored, and so therefore he got up and was like, what are y'all doing?
Hmm.
So but that was like the first go-to was, he's bad,
Yeah.
he won't sit down, this is what I noticed, he's got ADHD, you need to get him tested. And that's
Yeah.
not a conversation, like as a parent I'm gonna be like,
Off-putting. Yeah.
excuse me, like, you're not going to receive it well. And then,
Yeah.
although you're still going to be like, well, I care about my child, let me go see if something is or isn't, of concern. But it's just the way that it's brought to you, it matters. And so to make it a conversational piece, and, the approach with the book, and let me see if you notice certain things here, it kind of helps you feel like you have someone that is on your side. It's a very
Yeah.
comforting way to bring it up. So I like how you said that. That's definitely a good way to bring it up.
Thank you. I think in working, as I stated before, under the hood, uh, I had a lot of different kind of parents that came in to me, and I had to learn how to talk like I had some sense. Because there were fights between the parents and the teachers every
Yeah.
so often. And I was with middle schoolers, and yeah, it would be interesting. But just knowing I want someone to talk to me that way. It's my child you're speaking about.
Yeah.
So understand, I'll kill you. Uh, like,
I
or
mean, hey, it's okay. I'm killing for mine. Yeah.
right, it's, you better run. So being
But
able just to say,
yeah,
let's talk about this.
exactly.
Yeah,
Allegedly, they
allegedly.
will kill.
I
You had that
actually
little
was
alleged
Allegedly,
thing in the back.
allegedly,
take that out.
allegedly.
They were like, ma'am, back on March 20th.
Right. We found the body of, no, I
No,
wasn't
we know
there.
what you say.
I want to point out something too from the comments. Shout out to Regina McKenzie and the McKenzie clan. She said it's so important to teach children and parents to advocate for themselves,
Yes.
which is huge, right? Just like you
Yeah.
were stating earlier, if your child feels something, they should be able to come to you as a parent and say something. And as a parent, you should feel comfortable with going to the teacher and the people at the school and being able to discuss things with them, because at the end of the day, it's your child, right?
Mhm.
You only go through school, elementary, just one time. You don't go back and forth. You don't, once you go through it, the things that you missed at that point, they're missed. And these are pivotal times in
Mhm.
that child's life and that child's educational journey. Then you need to catch this as soon as possible so you can give them as much assistance as possible.
Exactly. That's so important. And I know there are fears. I know there are fears. I know there are parents like, I don't want to put my child on medication. I don't want to do that and so forth. I don't want them labeled as being the R word and all those things. But if we don't catch it in elementary, I hate to be the one that says it's too late. But as someone who taught middle school, y'all, it's really hard after that point. When I had seventh graders who didn't have basic phonemic awareness, meaning the alphabets and their sounds, they didn't know all of them. And I mean, these are kids, I'm 5'2", but they were taller than me. Some of them might have looked a little older. I was like, some of y'all are gonna be driving to this school while I'm driving. Um, and you know, when you experience that and you realize this is a seventh grader who doesn't have basic phonemic awareness, they cannot sound out words because they don't know what the sounds are. They haven't associated them with the letters efficiently and completely. Trying to After COVID, we learned in education this whole thing of acceleration. Because what we realized is that there was such a learning loss, but you can't go back and take the second grader that missed all of second grade because they were at home and teach them second grade stuff while in the third grade. That's too much. It's already too much to teach them each year. There's sometimes 192 standards, if not more, and there's 180 days. So like and that's not the days you have meetings or
Yeah.
field trips or fire drills or whatever. So there's just not enough time anyway. So what a lot of schools and school districts had to figure out ways, and they're still trying to figure out ways to do, is accelerate and to have it where you are moving the child forward with their lessons as you are building those skills that they missed. And that's when we talk about teachers having a job, y'all, that's it's almost impossible. But it does take a lot of intention and focus and planning, and really looking at your standards and understanding how they need to be applied and taught. Um, and so when you have a student with like dyslexia, you are having to do that anyway. I will say at the first, Cortland was coming home with some things and some papers, and I was like, "What, girl? You know those letters? What is this?" And I was about to go up there because I was not expecting that. And then I sat down with her, and I'm going to call out her teacher's name, Miss Tanner, because she's actually featured in the book. And Cortland showed me how Miss Tanner interacts with them with that particular worksheet, that handout. And I realized what I thought was below her was exactly what she needed. My immediate response was, this is not enough. She's got to get this. We got the STAR test. We got to do this, blah, 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 blah. And when I took a moment and Cortland explained it to me, my 9-year-old explained it to me, I realized, oh, that's what you're doing. Because she still has to be able to read the chapter books because she's in 3rd grade. She still has to do that. And while she's doing that, you're helping her decode over here with word parts, with phonemes. And that helped me sit back and say, okay, all right, this is what my child needs. And so I definitely recommend, if there are, even if it's the teacher that says something, but if there are questions that parents have, or things you're just noticing, speech is a little different, or something like that, ask them to be tested. Ask for it. And if you don't like the results, you're like, I don't know what you did, but this doesn't match up with what I know. Then do it independently through your insurance and bring those results in. It is better to do it now while they're in elementary than to wait until it manifests itself as more than just a learning issue. But now it's behavior. Now it's manifesting itself at home because they're frustrated all day at school. Do it now. The label is a wonderful thing. That label will go with them to college. And now you have this, as Sister Regina said, you have this student who knows how to advocate for themselves. So when they get to college, they're like, no, my IEP says this, because it's still valid. My IEP says this. And so I've already talked to the counselor. I'm going to need to be able to bring in my recorder to your lecture. And I noticed you said no one can record your lecture. Well, I have to record it. So either you record it and you give it to me, or I have to bring this in. Like, there it is right there. You have done, that is so empowering. Like, my IEP, my learning need, my accommodation says I need to be able to do this in order to be the student that I know I can be. You can't block that. So we can compromise. You can record it and give it to me, or you can let me record it. But there will be a recording and I will have it. And so now you have this strong person up there saying, no, this is what I'm owed. I'm supposed to have this. And that will translate into so many other areas. And if they need to call their mama or their daddy, then they call their mama or their daddy.
And we reinforce.
And we shall reinforce, even when you are 22.
Respectfully, we shall reinforce.
Yeah. So you've given us a lot of information about what's in the book. So let's go ahead and talk about the book itself, right?
Okay.
So again, when I read the book, I love the pictures in the book, of course the writing, but the book starts out. I ain't gonna tell y'all the whole book again. You got to go buy it, right? We want you to go buy this book.
Yes.
But she starts out the book on the very first page. I know I don't want y'all to be able to read it because I want y'all to buy it. At the bottom right here is some author's notes, right? So before you even go into the book, she's telling you all these good things to develop a foundation for you before you even get into the book. Then as the book goes, she talks to you the first page of the reading. She's telling you about what neurodivergence is, right? So, Ken, I like graphics and stuff, right? So I took the time to make this little graphic to show y'all.
A very
So
good graphic.
neurodiversity, and it has some things under that umbrella, which dyslexia falls under the umbrella with tics disorder, autistic spectrum disorder, and some other things. But you get the idea. Like there's
Those students who have difficulty within math, it's
yeah.
very
So
similar to dyslexia.
yeah, so there's other things under this umbrella. So it's not just that one. There's many things. So as I always say, do your Googles and Google that word neurodivergence and learn a little bit more. And dyslexia falls under that. And at the beginning of this book, she talks to you about neurodivergence, dyslexia, and she describes how dyslexia works as far as the brain goes, signs of dyslexia, and what understanding matters from a parent standpoint. So you get some tools before you even read the story of the book. So
I just like that photo. It's so cute on the front. Look at
yeah,
her
so
little glasses.
yeah, so bang, there you go. That's the
Look at
cover of
her.
the book. So it's an amazing book, and I'm telling you, there's so much in it that you can learn before you even read the first page of the story itself. So with that entailed, there's so much information in it, it's worth purchasing, because I guarantee you, if your child isn't affected by anything under the neurodivergence umbrella, you're gonna know somebody that is.
Yeah.
So it's important for you
Or
as
you
part of
might
that.
be.
You
Well,
I
that too.
was about to ask, what about having problems with I can't stand word problems with math.
Seriously, you guys, we're in the process of doing the testing for her to Cortland on ADHD because I see some things. But the reason that I'm seeing it is because I saw it in me. I'm looking at myself and I'm just like, oh my God. So I went to my doctor and I said, hey, we need to have some conversations. And I got tested for ADHD and found out that I actually am pretty far along on that ADHD spectrum. And so that's been in my 40s where I got that. But I noticed some of her actions that would drive me crazy were me. And I said, oh, no, no, no. Something's wrong with me. Nothing's wrong, but something is different with me. And just seeing her grow up, like, yeah, I'm noticing these things about myself. And that happens a ton with women, a ton, because we typically don't have um, a lot of the neurodivergence that manifests itself in the hyperactivity and the aggression and things like that. We're usually the ones that suppress. We want to please. I mean, that's how we're taught. You know, we want to please. We want to be demure. You know, and those types of things, or we want to completely fight against it because that's all we've been told. So I learned a lot about me and my neurodivergence in watching her and making those observations and saying, wait a minute, I thought it was her daddy, but it's me.
She said, you got that from your daddy. Never mind.
Right.
Never
No,
mind.
you got all that from your dad. It's like, no, you got it from mom.
But I take that back. It was me.
It's me. It's me.
But you know what? I think that's a humbling thing too,
Yeah.
to see that in your child, and not even just anything like this, anything in general that you
Yes.
deem something that might be a difficult trek for them, that you see in your child, and they picked up anything that you did that you like,
You're like,
I don't want you to do that like that. I
Yeah.
want you to be like me, but not that.
no,
Not
Not
like
that
me.
part. Not
Not
that
like,
part. Yeah, but
yeah.
one thing that you point out in the book, and of course, I'm saying the title of the book is Our Cousin the Superhero. It was a song that Kanye West is on, and I know y'all think Kanye West is crazy, and he might as well be.
Yes, but
He might
genius.
very well be.
Yeah.
But he pointed out something on one of the songs. He said himself that he feels like he is on the spectrum. He had said that before.
Yeah.
And he said that it's his superpower. It allows him to have a hyper focus that allows him to be able to focus on music, to be able to hear and see like music in his head, and just to create just the creativity piece of it.
Mhm.
And it made sense when he said that, because I've heard people refer to, dyslexia and autism and being on the spectrum as a superpower and their ability to focus on things. Because I have seen some kids that are autistic that have amazing drawing skills. And
Mhm.
it's like, and like you said, they have blinders on and they go into the zone. And one guy they had on the show, he's on the spectrum, and they showed him a picture of New York City, and they took the picture away, and he drew a
Wow.
picture of New York City from memory.
Wow.
They showed him the picture, took it
Yeah.
away, and he was able to sit there and sketch out the whole thing. And I was just blown away. But see, again, when kids aren't told these things and aren't given these tools as they're developing, they don't understand that it's a superpower. They don't understand
Yeah.
that it's
Yes.
it's a positive thing, that you can do big things, and you can in some ways you can be better than the average person,
Oh
because
yeah.
you have this super focus and you have this superpower of sorts. So
Yeah.
again, this book is representation of that. But as I read through the book, I not only noticed, of course, the main character Elise has dyslexia, that's her superpower,
Mhm.
but Blake in the story is nonverbal. So
Yes.
when you see nonverbal, that's usually associated with autism, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
And I've been around some kids who were nonverbal, and of course, when you're around them at first, if you haven't been around a kid that's nonverbal, it's weird. It's like,
Yeah.
What's going on?"
Mhm.
Because of course, me, I love kids. So you walk up to the kid, you want to, get a
Mhm.
kid some dap, talk to the kid, and the
Like,
kid is
"Oh,
like,
what's your name?"
yeah, they're not really messing with
Not
you
feeling
like
it.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm like, what I do? Usually I'm good with kids. What's going on? But
He's like me. Yeah.
yeah, but when the parent explains it, I'm like, oh,
Mhm.
okay. So again, it's that thing of, we didn't grow up knowing a lot of this stuff, so a lot of this stuff is fairly new to us.
Mhm.
So we're learning how to approach things and approach children and approach people that
Yeah.
have different things going on. And like you said, it's not a bad thing. It's just they see things different. They
Yeah.
approach things different.
Yeah.
So
Their
it's
brain
just it,
just functions a little differently.
and all this about is differences, right?
Mhm.
We're all human. We're all, gonna want the same things out of life. Everybody wants to be successful, but some people in life you just have to be a little bit more patient with.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And I think if we all have that grasp of that, and which the book does an excellent job of, taking you through the adventure that they're going through, but it also shows you how empowering a child can help her move through, because she's able to overcome things, because she remembers, boom, oh, okay, I know I have this issue, but I also have a way to get past this as well.
Yeah.
So
Mhm.
I understand that I might not be as good at this part, but I'm amazing over here. So let
Yeah.
Yeah.
me focus my superpowers over here. So and that's cool, because in life everybody ain't good at everything.
No.
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 There-
No.
but there may be something that you're exceptional at, and that's the whole, I think, journey of life, is to find out what you're exceptional at and
Yeah.
be able to do that, hopefully for a paycheck, because
Yeah.
that's what you're going to be best at in life. We say that all the time on the show. You want to find out what you're passionate about. And I understand a lot of times what you're passionate about might not pay you. So you have to work a certain job. So you can
Mhm.
work a certain job for a paycheck until your paycheck becomes your passion.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So it's
I
go
was
ahead.
gonna say two quick things that you touched on. One, um, the four kids in the book, they are modeled after Cortland and three of her cousins, who are all the same age, and the exceptionalities that I talk about, they demonstrate those in real life. And one of the things that I think our entire family notices when they are together, first of all, they love each other. You can't tell them that they're not all brothers and sisters. Like sometimes Cortland and her female cousin will be like, "Yeah, we're sister cousins," like because they're close in age and they're very close and they love each other so much. And I see them like taking up for each other and nurturing each other, and someone's crying, so it's like, oh, okay, the parents like, oh Lord, what is he crying for now, and they're okay. It's okay, here, let's do this. And I see that, I see Corlin taking that with her friendships at school. And so it's really important to me to include in this story not just the resilience of Elise, but the supportive environment, that even if her cousins didn't understand something or forgot for a moment that that's going to make her feel a little some kind of way, the other ones will come in and support, and then everyone will support. Because I also think that that's really important, in helping the kids find their niches, because right now it's going to be niches, and then finally they'll find their niche. But exposing them to different activities and environments, excuse me, so that they can broaden their tribe and get around some people that are super supportive, that recognize their difference as a cool thing, or just like, yeah, you do that and I do this, and together we can do this.
Yeah.
I think that's so important. Like, I have I have the best of friends, at two different groups. One group that I've known, and we've been friends for 40 years. I know I'm just 41, but no, I'm kidding. So not. For over 40 years. And then another group where this year is our 25th anniversary, of being friends. And they are my lifelines. Like, they are truly that wind beneath my wings kind of thing, because and I hope that I'm that for them, because that also helps you in understanding yourself. And while you're figuring out yourself, feeling like, oh my God, these people just love me for whatever. Like, they just love me. So yeah, I'm good. If God, and I tell this to Cortland, like, if God gave me people like this, I must not be too bad. Um, and so, exposing kids and allowing them to experience different things. And, if they want to try dance, now I understand it's expensive to try 50 million different things. But as much as we can, even the free things, like it's at the cultural center or something like that, help them do that, because they might find their people, and their people, oh boy, that's going to really help them, as much as finding that teacher that, like Boosie, broke down,
Yeah.
that, they gravitate to, and they look at, like, that's the person that let me know I was whole all by myself. Like, I was good. I think that's really, really important. I wanted to explore that, just a touch of that in the book, to show just how important that was in helping Elise get to that next stage in recognizing her superpowers. That it was the support of the cousins around cheering her on, um, saying, "Yeah, let's do this, and we believe in you."
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not just
that
the parents saying that. Yeah,
yeah, that's super important. Finding your tribe and finding the
For
people
sure.
that are going to be supportive. Because I think as you saw at my birthday party, there was a couple of guys there that we've been friends for 30 plus years.
mhm.
So and they've seen the good, the bad, and the ugly.
Right,
So
and they're
and
still there.
yeah, and they're still there. So, like you said, God's blessing me with some solid people. So I must be doing something right for them to still be hanging around. And I have a very supportive group of friends as a whole. So I understand the importance of that. And for our children, they definitely need the same thing as well. Because if not more, because I ain't gonna lie to you, today, to me, it's worse, far worse than what it
Yeah,
was when we were coming up, and far more
yeah,
difficult. So when I have to tell some of my friends that are parents and stuff like that, when they talk about these kids, I'm like, you got to understand, these kids dealing with a whole bunch of stuff we didn't have to
they
deal
are.
with.
Oh, they
So
are. I mean,
so
at least I one time I went because I was, well, I was in Atlanta. But at least I come from the Freaknik time. And Yes, there's a documentary now, but there weren't a bunch of people taking pictures and stuff. I was not doing those things. I'm not saying that. But I promise. Oh, but things could just go away. And now they cannot.
Yeah.
They're always there. If someone took
Yep.
that picture, that video, it's there. Even if they deleted it, it's still there. It's zeros and ones out there. And so they're dealing with a lot of things that we did not have to deal with at all. So if we can make it a little bit easier, I'm not saying make it super easy because they need struggle, but to make it easier so that they can focus on the things that really help to define them, I think it's worth it. I just think it's worth it.
I think that's important. You said, like, don't make it too easy, because my niece, she's autistic. And I remember, like, finding out she's autistic and she has epilepsy. So, like, finding out through her journey, like, I remember, like, the adults at the time, like, it was like more of a, she can't do that, she's autistic. Don't let her do that, she's autistic. Well, that's because she's autistic. And instead of like, you're autistic, but this is how you could do this, or this is how you could do that. So it was less empowering. It was more like they were, stopping her from doing things and telling her she couldn't. And so also big ups to my sister, the one that was on here with her book, that niece, her daughter. She's how old is my niece? 21. And we'd have been to the bar together. She works. Like, I'm teaching her how to drive. Like, she's just been this individual that has been very outspoken and been empowered, because my sister did go through the steps of making sure that she had like the IEP and those different things going on. Even at work, they know, and they, help her with different ways of training. She gets longer time to like learn things and all this different stuff. And she's loving life and dedicated. I talked to her. She FaceTimed
and enabled to do that.
Exactly.
That enables her to live more fully.
Yes.
And y'all can go to the bar together.
Right? We went out, we was walking on Fremont, and I was like, wait, she came to the car, and I was like, oh, you're coming? I was like, I forgot you're 21. Like, I was like, well, get in the car, let's go, I'm gonna buy you a drink.
So let the
like,
fun
I'm
begin.
just like, I love to see her like live. When I spent, like, when I was younger, just like listening, I'm at the time, I can't tell my parents or grandparents and how they're supposed to be talking to her, but I'm like, stop doing that. Like, she can do stuff. And so I'm just, it's great to hear like what you're saying, like empower them, let them do these things, let them struggle a little, let her learn or go through different experiences so that she can be this person. And just seeing who she is today, I'm just like, that's right, girl.
Yes. I know my cousin Chastity, who put some comments in, she and my other cousin, her husband David, do such a great job with their son, who is nonverbal. That's who Blake is modeled after. And in the very beginning, we as this generation, this sort of Zennials, we kind of we knew, and we were like, yeah, this is where he's going. And some of the older folks in the family were just like, he's not stupid, he's not dumb, he's not this, and we were all like, who said he was?
Yeah, no one said that.
The word we used was nonverbal. That is not synonymous with stupid and dumb. Actually, he's very smart. And now, he can communicate with his tablet. He can, like, those are the things that he can use to enable you to understand what he's trying to tell you. He knows what he's trying to say.
Yeah.
He's not having problems processing that. He's now trying to get you to know what he's trying to say so you can do what he wants. But just having those conversations, creating vocabulary around it, and clarifying what that vocabulary means, because that will only set that child up to be an asset to society, to be a productive adult, to be a happy adult, to feel like I can do everything. I might do it differently and at a different time and in a different way, but I can do it. I can do that. And that's what we want for our kids. That's what we want for the children in our in our families.
For sure.
And Chastity said he's looking at us like we're stupid because we don't understand him.
Exactly. Can't you understand? I've been saying this. I'm pushing it. So yeah, and we said earlier, so that people, we need to understand that they think differently. Well, they're they have the concept of the other. A lot of times people of color, socially, we have this construct of other that people who are not of color don't really have, because they're never the other. And we exist as the other. We have to wear masks and we have to do all these things. Well, for people who are neurodivergent, they are the other. They're always the one who has to go beyond to get you to understand what they're actually trying to do. And that's exhausting.
Yeah.
And they probably think we're the dumbest people in the world because we can't understand them.
Yeah.
So it goes both ways, but understanding that they constantly live in other land, that's a lot to put on a person.
Yeah.
So the least we can do is seek to understand and be cognizant of that.
That makes a lot of sense if you see them kind of isolate themselves sometimes. Like, I just don't feel like othering right now. Like,
I feel like othering.
I don't want to explain. I don't want to, I
I'm not the representative.
Yeah.
I
can just be over here in my world and not be bothered for just a little bit.
Yeah. I mean, we do that. I don't feel like it today. I know who was elected. I know this. I know that.
Yeah.
Yes, I know all those things, and I just don't feel like being the representative today.
Right.
I don't feel like othering.
Mm-hmm.
And that's 100% facts. And I want to make sure before we start wrapping up in a minute, I want to make sure that they see these pictures. You know what I'm saying? Again, you got to see the cover. The cover is amazing. The art. And here's a couple of pages from the book. Look at this amazing art and how everything's set up. Yeah, like it's very vivid, and it's eye catching, and of course the storyline is amazing. So you definitely
and the kids love the pictures. They love the pictures.
Yes. Some of us adults love the pictures too. You know what I'm saying?
So look at him mad. He mad up there.
I want to say, as you're showing this, because there might be people out there who are afraid of this, or they have kids who are interested in it. Those were all done with AI. I did not pay someone to do that. I determined how I wanted them to look, and I kept tweaking my prompt until I got them to look like I wanted the Afro puffs on the side. I wanted glasses. I wanted the shirt to look like this. So I kept working on it to get it to that way. And so any of us, Zennials, Millennials, Gen X, Boomers, Builders, all that, who are afraid of AI, don't be.
I love me some AI. About to do some work in a
Chatty
minute.
and I, Perplexity and I, Copilot and I, we hang and we roll deep.
I think AI is pretty dope.
Yes. So you can do so many things.
And you know what's but I keep in mind, y'all, Kia's tech, the tech person, education tech field. So, it's things that she can do that might take you a little while longer to do. So be patient but I'm just saying, be patient with yourself.
Yes.
Don't get frustrated with the process. You can do it. Just be patient with yourself. So
and have fun with it.
Also, I'm putting the link to the book in the comments. So when that pops up, you all can go to this website and be able to purchase the book at a discounted price. So Kia can tell you a little bit more about that. But we want you all to go to the site, purchase it. You know what I'm saying? Now, some of y'all be on Amazon every single day. It's available there too. So if you want to go ahead and put like 10, 20 of them in your cart, go ahead and do that too.
10, 20, 30. So I did self-publish. I wanted this out. I wanted it to say what I wanted it to say, and I wanted to look what I wanted it to look like. So I wasn't even trying to, the Holy Spirit did not say, go to Penguin Books or anything. He said, go do it. And so I did self-publish. I used Amazon KDP. And of course, like I said, I use AI to do the images. I had a friend of mine help me edit. And shout out to Yamina McKessie out there. And I did it all through Amazon KDP. Now, it's a wonderful tool. Basically, they will print and ship to wherever you want them to do it. And then they help you figure out what the price of the book should be if they're doing all that. So through Amazon, the book is like $15.99 or something like that. I only get $4 out of that after they take printing and shipping out. And so I do have the ability to do print on demand and ship for you. And so this is my website, KD Learning Collective. It is where I hope to have many more things. But right now, it does have the book, and it is there at a discounted price for $12. And then two other things that are being offered is if you do the class set, you get downloadable activities. So things that you can use with your class, uh, or if you're a parent, you can still do just the downloadables as well. But those are activities that relate to the actual book. It's not just the questions that you find in the back of the book, which are good reflection questions. It's additional activities. So if you want the book and the downloadable activities, they're on there. If you are an instructor, an educator, principal, anyone in education, and you wanted to do a class set with the downloadable activities, you can do that as well. And then what you'll see coming up in the next day would be for anyone who would like to do meet the author and educator workshops. So I would come to your location, or we can do it virtually. I'll do a meet the author with the students. Well, I'll read the book. We'll talk about it, talk about some of the themes in there. And then you have the option of doing a half hour, 1 hour, and then a 2 hour workshop with the educators to really dive into neurodivergence, dyslexia, what it looks like, what are some strategies, and also how to talk to parents about it. I also have a workshop where if you want me to come out and speak to parents, I will do that as well. So that will be offered on the website. You'll see the placeholder for it right now. Within the next 1 to 2 days, you'll see that so that you can book me as well.
That's
All
good.
right.
That's really good.
Yeah, that's super dope.
Right.
Again, you all hit that link, go buy
Yeah.
some books, go to
Yeah.
Amazon, buy some books.
No,
Just go
don't go to
buy the
Amazon.
book.
Go to her
Yeah.
site.
Well,
Yeah,
I'm just telling
free
you.
Amazon.
I'm
But
just
if you're
telling you.
on Amazon, go
But
ahead.
yeah,
There's some people.
if you
There's some
can't
people.
figure out getting the HTTP whatever for hers, then just go on Amazon.
Well, I'm just telling you, there's some people who are so conditioned to Amazon,
I know.
they will
I know.
not buy stuff if it's not on Amazon.
That's because they
So
want it tomorrow.
They want it
yeah,
tomorrow.
yeah.
And this,
So
I will say, this takes about 10 days
yeah,
because it's printed on demand and then it ships directly to you. I don't touch it, but I get it shipped directly to you. So
Yeah,
it
I
does
think
take
it's pretty
longer.
dope that Amazon allowed
yeah.
you the ability to
Oh,
go
yeah.
to them to like create the book and put it together, publish, and like so. I
They
was
do.
listening
They have
like,
a
wow.
great wizard. And also, if people are boycotting Amazon, I don't know if they're boycotting Barnes and Noble. Barnes and Nobles also has that feature as well, where they and I found them to be a little bit cheaper than Amazon. Not a whole lot, but a little bit cheaper. So if you have something you have been told you need to get out, do not allow something to stop you because there are means for it to get out to the public.
That's what's-
do that. And if it doesn't sell, it just sells to the people at your church or at your job. Oh well, you got it out. And you never know. I think one of my first um reviews, I was like, I don't even know who this lady is, but I want to message her because she put a review on there and it wasn't anyone I knew. So I say, if you have a calling to get your words out, to get your message out, to get your story out. If you have a kid's book, a puzzle book, any of those things, a novel, do it. There are ways to do it, and it does not come out your pocket until it is and actually it doesn't come out your pocket. It just doesn't come as a residual to you until you it's actually paid for.
Yeah. Wow.
Okay. So y'all
All
heard
right.
it. Go take care of your business. Hit that link. Go to the site. Buy a whole bunch of books.
Whole bunch.
Christmas. You can never get too many Christmas gifts early. If you need to
The
get
Easter
some Christmas
basket.
gifts, yeah,
Yes,
Easter.
it's
Yeah, put that. Yeah,
purple.
hey, yes,
Easter
it's purple.
basket.
See,
Y'all
look,
know when we was kids, we used to get coloring books and stuff in your Easter
yeah.
basket. And you
Drop
could
that
put
right
this
on
book
in
in
there,
there.
right in the back. It
Yeah,
can hold up all the candy. Put it
yeah,
right there.
yeah, yeah. So before we
Summer's
wrap up,
coming up. Good reading book for the summer. Activities.
true.
Yes.
So before we wrap up, we want to give an opportunity for our guest to, leave you with, her final thoughts and to also let you know where to find her on social media. So Kia,
All
let them
right.
know something and let them know where to find you on social media. We appreciate you.
All right. Thank you. So you can find me. Final thoughts. Thank you very much for this opportunity. As you probably can tell, this is something I'm passionate about. Not just about my daughter, but definitely about my daughter, but about education and making sure that the most vulnerable individuals out there have equal access to what can make them great. And I don't like anyone not feeling like, uh, you want to have a seat at the table, but you also need, and I learned this at Penn, you want to feel like you have a seat at the table, you deserve to be at the table, you know which fork to use, which spoon to use, you feel comfortable in your skin at that table. And that is my lifelong goal, to make sure other people feel that, because I know what it feels like not to feel that way. Um, I hope that you pick up the book and the activities and that you truly benefit from it. Thank you, Ken. You benefit from it. Don't just think it's a book to read, but definitely share it with others. Let it be a conversation piece. Bring it to your classrooms, to your schools. I had some friends who read across America. They were reading it to classes. And share the message behind it, which is diversity is a good thing. It's not a bad word. No matter what people say, we want to embrace those things. We would not have so many wonderful artistic expressions out there if not for people who are neurodivergent. If you do want to reach out, you can go to my website, the KD Learning Collective, and definitely sign up to stay in the loop when new things come out and to purchase or to book. You can also find me on socials. I use my nickname, not Nini, but Kia, Kia Devers, on Instagram, Facebook, even TikTok. It's like Mrs. Kia Devers, but I don't post there really. Um, and if you would like to DM or to send an email, please feel free to do that. You can reach me at kiaddevers@gmail.com if you have questions or you just want to discuss, or maybe you're like, Kia, this is something I've been thinking about with my child. I'd just like to have an ear. I'm more than happy to talk to you about it and to share my experiences and offer any guidance that I can possibly offer. One other place you can find me on Instagram and on Facebook in at craftsbyyou.com. My candle and mobile candle and soap making company. You can reach me there because that's my other thing. So if you're looking for dessert candles or drink candles, or if you really like you some nice smelling iced coffee candles, or even Easter candles, please stop by at craftsbyyou.com. And we also have our lovely soap baskets as well. So you can reach me lots of different places. I'm doing lots of different things. God is moving in some ways, and I'm just trying to follow and not disappoint him. But thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, she got a lot popping off. People support her
I
in
do.
all kinds of ways. Make sure you reach out. Make sure you take advantage of her offers to, help you along your journey, because we all need that assistance as well.
And I'll do that even without a book purchase. I prefer a book purchase, but I'll do it without.
Buy the book, people. Buy the book. All right, Trisha Michelle, talk to the people before we get up out of here.
I'll say, because it was kind of touched on a little bit too earlier, when you were talking about, you went back to go get yourself tested and to go, seek out to, see what things you may have opportunities in it within yourself. And I work in mental health. So that happens a lot. I'll have adults calling in, and they want to, discuss options or figure out what they need to do for ADHD testing or whatever. And they'll mention certain things like, I went my whole life struggling with testing or school or something like, and I, never knew or never thought about it, but I think I really need to buckle down and get this testing done, and ADHD testing, and figure out what's going on with me. And I always think like, dang, like you're whatever the age, 40, 50. And I'm like, 50 years struggling, like not knowing, and you're going to find out now, which is going to be great. It's going to be amazing for you. But like you said, be able to put a label to it, to now, create a plan to be able to empower yourself. But I was just like, wow, like, you spent so many years not knowing. So don't be afraid to go test. Don't think you're an adult now, it's over, it's too late. Is it like, just go find out. You never know. I think mental health is a great thing to explore for everyone. You don't know until you know, and everybody thinks they're fine until they're not. So go and get and seek help, and just, even if it's just talking to somebody, you don't have nothing, just do it. So I'm here for mental health for sure. But you can find me on Instagram, Trisha. Why do I always forget who I am?
Trisha Michelle _
YT. I am Trisha Michelle _ YT. That's who I am, I swear. You can find me on Instagram, TikTok. You can find me on YouTube also. But like I always say, and I'm always going to say, if you don't follow the Fiyah Session, then don't follow me. And that's big. So make sure y'all follow the Fiyah Session so y'all can tune in every Tuesday. Right? All right.
Yeah.
I appreciate you as always for lending your thoughts and your expressions, y'all. Trisha Michelle does an amazing job here at the Fiyah Session, and we value her presence. So shout out to you.
Thank you. I love being here.
Y'all, I ain't got nothing to say but than buy the book, man. Buy the book. Buy the book.
Yes.
Hit the link, buy the book. That's what that's what Big Ken got to say before I close out. And y'all already know, y'all can find me at Big Ken on Fiyah on all social media platforms. Just make sure y'all go and follow the Fiyah Session on all social media platforms as well. Type in FIYAH Session, will pop right up. That's YouTube, that's Facebook, that's IG. Wherever you are, we are as well. So make sure you support us and keep spreading the word that we are here and that we're just trying to help the people in the world understand things that they don't understand, and have access to people that they might not have access to, because we're gonna find them and we're gonna get the information, because we want y'all to be better people and we want to be better ourselves. So we appreciate the support and the love. As always, the Fiyah Session, we out. Peace.
Right.
Thank you for joining us today. Please follow us on all social media platforms. Just search Fiyah Session.